There are animated films for children, and there are animated films for adults. But Hayao Miyazaki's imaginative filmography has resonated across generations through animated films for everyone. And the world, as well as the London Film Festival, are a much better place for it. My name is Ren, and this is my review of Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron. Welcome back, Film Festival fans. Thank you for joining me to discuss the grand return of Miyazaki-sensei after his third retirement. You know it's a big deal when your son screws up the legacy of your studio so bad you need to crank out 3 all-timers, and he once more brings back his quirky, imaginative style following the story who moves away from his home after the death of his mother during the war. In his new town, Mahito discovers an abandoned tower and enters a fantastical world with a talking gray heron. Like many of you, I'm sure, I grew up with Hayao Miyazaki's films. They've been there through all the different stages of my life, and one of the elements that always made me connect with them is the boundless imagination he brings to his world, and it sparks an interest in me because we are of such different backgrounds. The sensibilities I have for storytelling, whether the films come from Hollywood or the UK or Europe, are always immensely different from the films that come from Japan. Miyazaki always brings that unique distinctiveness to the way he tells stories that have made him a master of the craft. And with The Boy and the Heron, Hayao Miyazaki proves once more why he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest figure in animation history, who may have just provided us his latest swan song, bowing out with yet another fantastical and emotional journey across time and space with so many bizarre elements that add layer upon layer of creativity, depth, and quirkiness. His boundless visual for world building is staggering. Every shot in this film feels lived in and worn out. It's a world that already existed, that works in its own rules, and every shot has something that catches your eyes, something that demands a rewatch to fully absorb all of his imagination and being washed over by the whimsy of it all. Whether it is the trees blowing in the wind, the ocean water flowing with the waves, the little details you notice in the background as he brings this world of giant parakeet soldiers or wild vicious pelicans trapped in a prison-like life cycle they cannot escape from, as well as the cutest creatures you will see in any film this year, the Wada Wada, or this strange man trapped inside a gray heron suit who brings our boy into this world and is trapped without his help to escape. It's Hayao Miyazaki at his most heightened self. It's one more enchanting tale from one of the great storytellers of our time. The Boy and the Heron is Miyazaki's testament as to how animation can be as astonishingly immersive a storytelling medium as any other. Every shot in this film is shockingly detailed. There's always something unique, distinct about it. It is highly imaginative, funny, and gorgeous to witness it all unfold, topped by a beautiful sounding score from Joe Hisaishi. When it comes to Studio Ghibli, the fact that the animation is sublime and flawless is no surprise, but we can all the more appreciate it these days as Studio Ghibli is one of the very few animation studios that still does 2D hand-drawn animation. All the work put into this film is shown in each frame, particularly in the beginning. The way Miyazaki captures motion blur as Mahito runs through the street of a war-torn village being attacked is sensational. It is something unique I don't think I've ever seen before, and all the colors and movement of the characters, everything just naturally, literally flows on screen for you to see. And his imagination is displaying on screen even before Mahito dives into this fantastical, weird, quirky world filled with odd birds walking around with machetes that want to cook you and eat you. If you're familiar at all with Hayao Miyazaki's works, you can always sense a personal touch given to his stories, how he projects his worldviews or himself to his worlds and to his characters. The Boy and the Heron is no different, as even before Mahito dives into this world, there's a weird sensation of struggling with growing up and with major life changes as this boy loses his mother, loses his home to the war, and sees himself in this strange place surrounded by strange people, and he doesn't really know how to cope. One of my favorite elements about The Boy and the Heron is while Mahito is internally struggle with all this, as he dives into this world following the heron, he questions nothing about it. He accepts everything this fantastical world has to offer and every path this odd adventure sends him on as he meets these strange people who seem to know who he is, seem to be connected with his life, with his past, and seem to know better why he is in this place more than himself does. And if The Boy and the Heron is meant to be Hayao Miyazaki's true final film, he goes out on a high note. Just perhaps not the highest note he's ever delivered. One of the things I most noticed about this film is that it can feel slightly muddled, a little bit too busy with all its metaphors and ideas that feel fully formed, but don't necessarily feel all too clear in how they all connect with one another. It's clear to see why Mahito is at the center of this story, how the journey of his life brought him to this world and into this position. But it's not all too clear what Miyazaki wants to say in regards to that personal touch he gives to his stories. There's a little bit of a sense where you've seen this in his previous films, and it's only naturally brings all those greatest ideas into this one, but they can feel all too familiar, all just a little bit vague and incomprehensible at points. It's how they come in full circle that offer a sense of satisfaction for us as well as for Mahito and his arc. So while it may not be Hayao Miyazaki's best, it's better than most others out there, as you'd expect from the master, and as perfect a thematic note to go out on as anyone could hope for Miyazaki-sensei. So before I dive into my final thoughts on The Boy and the Heron, it's time for you to start the conversation about it in the comments below. Tell me your favorite Studio Ghibli film, tell me how excited you are for The Boy and the Heron, and if you're enjoying my coverage of the London Film Festival, more reviews right up here, and if you just want to talk more movies and TV in general, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button, and you won't miss any future conversations on your favorite movies and TV. The Boy and the Heron sees Hayao Miyazaki's imagination and whimsy at their peak. Breathtaking animation sweeps you off your feet, and a wholesome score will make you soar. It can feel like a greatest hits tale, but Studio Ghibli's greatest hits are such for good reason. I'm giving The Boy and the Heron a B+. Thank you so much for watching, festival and animation fans. Be sure to start a conversation about The Boy and the Heron and Hayao Miyazaki in general. Let's celebrate him in the comments below. And big shout out to my channel members for always supporting the channel. More reviews from the London Film Festival to come very soon. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.